Hello, welcome back to our countdown to Christmas. Today is the 11th of December. We've got another video for you where we're putting two Necron units up against one another, talk about the advantages, the disadvantages, and why I would select them if I was creating a list. Now don't forget guys, we are in the middle of a giveaway, and this is what we are giving away, the Combat Patrol box for the Necrons. So all you need to do is be subscribed, like the video, and comment down below which of the units you're going to be selecting if you were to select one. We've got 24 videos running right through December to Christmas Eve, so 24 opportunities to get your hands on that box. Right, so for yesterday's video we did two Transcendent Catan Shards going up against the Tesseract Bolt, so if you've missed that one it'll be down in the playlist. I might put a link up in the top right of the screen for you now. But that was yesterday's video. As for today's video, we've got the Lokhust Lord going up against the Skorpekh Lord. So two Necron characters that are on foot from the Destroyer cult, and we're going to be putting them up against one another. So a 30 points difference with these two units. The Skorpekh Lord is 130, the Lokhust Lord is 100. Although the Lokhust Lord does have a few upgrade options available, we'll go through that in a bit. So stats of note that are different from one another. First of all, it's the movement, and you're thinking, well, they're both 8 inches, right? Well, the Lokhust Lord has the fly keyword. Now, I know that's not a stat, that's an ability, well, a keyword in fact. But it does make a huge difference in terms of the movement, going over terrain, going over other units. So that's something already as an advantage for the Lokhust Lord. Now as for the Skorpekh Lord, he's got weapon skill and ballistic skill 2+, whereas the Lokhust Lord is on a 3+. Sometimes I actually forget that the Lokhust Lord hits on a 3 as opposed to a 2. And finally, the strength of the Lokhust Lord is only strength 5, whereas the Skorpekh Lord has strength 6. This is going to matter in terms of the melee weapons when they're strength +2, +1 and all that kind of stuff. Again, we'll talk about that later in this video. But as an overall stat line, I think even though the Skorpekh Lord doesn't have the fly keyword, he definitely has the better stat line overall. Right, as for abilities, let's first talk about what they've got in common because they're both very similar units. So first of all, they've got the Hardwire for Destruction ability, so they are re-rolling ones to hit, that's at range and in melee. And they've also got the United in Destruction Aura ability for Destroyer Cult units to be able to re-roll wound rolls of a 1, and that's going to include themselves as well because they're Destroyer Cult units. They've then both got the Phase Shifter save for the 4+ invulnerable save. Now that's what they've got similar. As for unique abilities, let's start with the Lokhust Lord. You've got the option of the Phylactery War Gear, which is going to cost you 5 points. So this is going to make your Living Metal bring back D3 wound as opposed to 1 lost wound, so it's going to help with his resiliency. The second upgrade option is the Resurrection Orb, which is something that the Skorpekh Lord cannot take, but the Lokhust Lord can. It's going to cost 30 points. It's a way of bringing back models in the command phase. Now you could optionally upgrade this to a Relic Orb, which is the Orb of Eternity. Now I wouldn't advise using it on the Lokhust Lord, we'll get into why sort of at the very end of the video. But yeah, the Skorpekh Lord cannot be taking the Resurrection Orb. In fact, the Skorpekh Lord does not have any upgrades or any additional abilities to add, so that one is an easy point to the Lokhust Lord. Now this is the bit where I normally talk about unique synergy, but I'm going to call this unique options today, because I'm not really going to be talking about units that they're synergizing with, because they're synergizing with very similar units in fact. But as for unique options, starting off with the Skorpekh Lord, you've got the Whirling Onslaught stratagem for 1 command point, and it will effectively be a -1 to wound if he was targeted by your opponent. Secondly, in the Army of Renown Annihilation Legion, he has got a unique relic which is called the Night Cold Scythe. This basically improves one of his melee weapons, the Hyperphase Harvester. Not only will it not have that -1 to hit penalty attached to it, but also any additional damage or excess damage will spill onto the next model within the same unit. So even going up against models that have got 1 single wound, with a 3 damage weapon, it will spill onto the next one, and so on. Now speaking of the Army of Renown, with the Annihilation Legion, the Lokhust Lord has also got a unique relic, which is called the Chariot of the Hierarchs. So this is a 4+ to wound him. Anything less than a 4+ and it will not wound him, so he's basically got transhuman physiology. And he also gets an additional 3 inch for the piling and consolidation moves, that's pretty big. There's further shenanigans you can also do with a Warlord trait with that to make that a 6 inch. But anyway, the Skorpekh Lord cannot take that relic because that is unique to the Lokhust Lord. Some other unique options in terms of the Lokhust Lord is the actual war gear that he takes. He can take a Staff of Light, which could upgrade to a Voltaic Staff. He could upgrade to a Solar Staff. He can then take a Void Blade. He can take a War Scythe, which could then upgrade to the Blood Scythe or the Void Reaper. Then he's also got the option of the Hyperphase Sword as well. Skorpekh Lord is what you see is what you get. You cannot upgrade the weapons or the war gear. So even though the Army of Renown relic is pretty good on the Skorpekh Lord, for this one I've got to select the Lokhust Lord. There's so many more flexible options that you can take in terms of war gear, so that's a point to the Lokhust Lord. Now as for the weapons, the best weapon that the Lokhust Lord could probably take is the War Scythe. That's without any relic options of course, that's just a straightforward weapons. That's going to be strength 7, -4 AP and 2 damage, hitting on 3s, and that's with no buffs and abilities. Now when you're looking at the Skorpekh Lord, he's got 2 completely different melee weapons. One is the Flensing Claw, strength 6, -1 AP, 1 damage, making 8 attacks as opposed to 4. so really good against horde units. Or alternatively that Hyperface Harvester, as we kind of briefly mentioned earlier. This strength 8, -4 AP and a flat 3 damage, but it will be a -1 to hit penalty. But naturally you're hitting on 2s anyway, so that will only go down to a 3. So a really good all-round model for anti-infantry, anti-tank, anti-elite. You can kind of do it all. So I definitely would prefer his weapons over the Locust Lords. Next I want to talk about the overall purpose of these two models. The Locust Lord, well, is more of a stay back and buff kind of unit. He's more defensive, potentially you're going to be using him with the Locust Destroyers and the Locust Heavy Destroyers for their rerolls to 1 to wound. Now even though he can take a Resurrection Orb, it's not likely you're going to be taking it with a blob of Necron Warriors. And the reason being, he's got no My Will Be Done ability attached to his profile. You're better off just taking a Necron Overlord for that My Will Be Done ability and giving that Resurrection Orb to the Overlord. But yeah, overall the Locust Lord is a more of a defensive stay back kind of guy, maybe defending your shooting units with his War Scythe and yeah, buffing those guys at the back. Whereas the Skorpekh Lord is more offensive, more aggressive, going with units such as the Skorpekh Destroyers, potentially the Ophidian Destroyers if you can keep up with them. Although to be honest, a Chronomancer is probably better served on those kind of units to give them the invuln save. But then you could argue, well, the Skorpekh Lord can dish out a ton of pain on top of that, but then you're looking at, say, a Catacomb Command Barge. That would probably be a much better option than the Skorpekh Lord. So already you can kind of see a little bit of a problem with both of these units. In fact, there are just better options in our codex. But we are comparing them against each other today and not against the codex. So that's the overall purposes. What about the advantages and disadvantages? Starting off with the Locust Lord, and the advantages are, so he's 30 points cheaper at base cost. Of course there will be upgrade options, which is actually the next bullet point. You've got options here. You can also fly, which is something the Skorpekh Lord can't do. He's going to have more relic options, again because of the War Scythe perhaps, or the Staff of Light, that upgrades to certain things, even the Resurrection Orb. With the Orb of Eternity, you've got more options of upgrades with the relics. You've got the Phylactery War Gear for D3 wounds to be brought back. And that's the advantages. Disadvantages are, so he hits on a 3+, not a 2+. I think that sucks, to be honest. He should be hitting on a 2+. He's a Locust Lord. He's only strength 5, not strength 6. I don't mind that so much. The Skorpekh Lord is a bit of a beast. That one I've got no problem with. He's not as good as dealing damage as the Skorpekh Lord does, because the Skorpekh Lord gets to strength 8 with his weapon. And finally, the Resurrection Orb synergy isn't as useful. I don't know why you can actually take a Resurrection Orb, to be honest with you. It doesn't really make sense. Not in the current state of how reanimation protocols actually works with multi-wound models. So that's the Locust Lord. Let's get onto the Skorpekh Lord. Hits on a 2+, not a 3+. He starts at strength 6. He's got that flexible melee weapon, so he can be hitting all kinds of targets, whether they're basic chaff units or really good strong elite units. He's also got a ranged weapon, which is reasonably good. I mean, it's only 18-inch range. We didn't really discuss it in this video today, but that will be definitely an advantage for the Skorpekh Lord. And finally, that Whirling Onslaught stratagem for a -1 to wound him, which is something the Locust Lord cannot take. Disadvantages, well, he's 30 points more. He's not got the fly keyword, so that makes his maneuverability a little bit more difficult. He's got no weapon options. What you see is what you get. He's got less relic options because of that. You can still take things such as the Gauntlet of the Conflagrator, for example, but you're not going to take that. And finally, I've just put here unneeded synergy. I put a question mark here because I don't believe the Skorpekh Destroyers need a Skorpekh Lord. I don't believe the Ophidian Destroyers need a Skorpekh Lord. So what else does need a Skorpekh Lord when you could just get a Locust Lord to do that same job? That's my problem with the Skorpekh Lord. And that actually brings me on to my decision today, and I'm going to be going with the Locust Lord in fact, because I think neither of them are that competitive at the moment. But if you really did want one of these Destroyer Lord units within your list to be buffing up other Destroyer Cult units for their wound rolls, you may as well go cheap with it, go with the Locust Lord. And the likelihood is you're only bringing them for your backline guns, such as your Locust Destroyers and your Locust Heavy Destroyers. I don't believe you need a Skorpekh Lord to do that. So today I'm going to be choosing the Locust Lord. So guys, let me know down in the comments below which one you would select. Also, you know what to do to get involved in the giveaway. You just got to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment on which of these units you would prefer. Other than that, all that's left to say is thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.